Welcome to Doing Different, where you are seen, heard, and understood because you matter. Melinda is a longtime homeschool mom and co-op leader who has spent over 15 years building and supporting homeschool communities. She taught in and directed a large homeschool co-op, walking alongside families through the real, everyday details of making group learning work. She is the author of Homeschooling with Friends and the creator of Co-op Kickstart, a guided 5-day program that helps moms plan, start, or strengthen homeschool co-ops in a way that feels doable, supportive, and not overwhelming. At the heart of her work is a simple belief: no homeschool mom should have to figure this out alone. Melinda shares practical guidance rooted in real-life experience with plenty of encouragement along the way, so moms can build meaningful community with confidence and care. Welcome to the show, Melinda. Melinda, thank you for being my guest today on Doing Different with Kimmie. What does doing different mean to you? And can you describe that pivotal moment when you decided to homeschool your children?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's a great honor and pleasure to be speaking with you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I guess the pivotal moment was when I had put my daughter into public school in a magnet program. I thought that was what I was supposed to do. My mom was a lifelong teacher, and it was just the progression for my little girl. And the first year was wonderful. The teacher was marvelous. In fact, I interviewed with her at her house. She and her husband were both kindergarten teachers, so it was wonderful. The second year was total chaos. I was there to volunteer on a regular basis, and instead of helping with the children and my daughter, I sat and held the vice principal's son on my lap because he wasn't ready for school.
Wow.
Um, that was okay. But then she would come home with language that she didn't learn at home. And she would come
Mm-hmm.
home, just upset with just different things. And I guess that's normal for a 6-year-old, but it broke my heart. And
Yeah.
the final blow, I guess, was during that Christmas season. And they spent 2 weeks doing Christmas, only it was 2 weeks of doing Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and nothing at all about Jesus. And
Wow.
so she brought in her little book. I did not know this. She brought in her little book. It was from Mary in Bible Land, and it was just about the story of the baby Jesus. And she took it up to the teacher, and the teacher refused to read it. And
Wow.
and she came home crying. And that was like, oh, no, 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 no. Mama Bear got involved.
Yes.
So we had a Christmas event at the school, and I sat down with the principal and I told him, what I was feeling. His comment was, look around you. We've got reindeer and snowmen everywhere. And then I looked at him and I said, you know, and I know that Christmas is not about reindeer and snowmen. It's about a baby in a manger. And I am
That's
really
right.
tired of my daughter being treated like her beliefs and our beliefs don't matter.
Right.
So I went home from that party and I started looking at alternatives. I didn't know what they were. I looked at private school and no, that wasn't going to work.
Right.
Because, we were a single income family.
It's
And
expensive.
L- it was a really neat thing because a friend of mine at church, I would just mentioned it. It wasn't anything that I had thought about or anything. We just were talking. She has 5 kids. And she said, well, have you looked at homeschooling? And I had never heard of it. Go back to my mom being a teacher.
Right.
And so I started checking it out. I would go to the library. I got all the books I could find on learning styles and teaching styles and just the different options that we had. And my husband and I both decided that we wanted to go that route. So I went to my first homeschool convention. It was a state convention here in Florida. And I walked around the whole time with my mouth dropped open. I had no idea any of this stuff was going on. And this was actually just shortly after it became legal to homeschool in Florida. So it's going back a
Right.
few years. So that
Yeah.
was mainly my impetus to go into homeschooling.
Right. And back then I think that your kids are probably about 10 years older than mine. So what year would you say that was when you went to the convention?
Probably, well, she was 87, 93.
Okay, because my son was born in 94, my daughter in 99, and then I dealt with all of that uh end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s. And at that time, they were making it very hard to homeschool because you had to have these big portfolios and you had to hire these people that would review. And where do you find those? Where do you get started? How do you get started? How do you create a portfolio? It was so discouraging, and I think that they kind of made it that way to discourage you from homeschooling because you needed to do a lot of your homework. You needed to find the right curriculum, you needed to find the right co-op, you needed to find the evaluator, you needed to create that portfolio. I don't know if that was the same for you, where you'd have to really.
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
it was so easy. We wrote a letter, sent it to the supervisor. We had a gentleman that worked in the educational system who was really an advocate for homeschooling.
Wow.
He saw the benefit. I'm not going to say he was an advocate, but he saw the benefit. And
Right.
we had the Dickersons in Florida, and he was an attorney, and they went to the legislature, and that's how it started becoming legal. Is we had a lot of
Wow.
grassroots. Our county was, I think, the best in the state. um, we did have to, we could do a portfolio and show it to, a tester or whatever. I chose to test my kids every year, mainly because I was testing me. I wanted to see
Yeah.
how they were doing, because I had no idea, how they matched what the curriculum should be and where their levels should be or anything. So I always had them tested. And Joanne Holland was our tester, and she was beyond wonderful. So,
Wow. Well,
but
that always made me really nervous.
it was very easy. I also joined the Pinellas Parent Educator Association right off the bat. And that was
Hmm.
at that time, um, it was like family reunion every time we met. You use the word co-op. When I started, that wasn't even a thing. Nobody around me had heard of that.
Right, right. And so basically you just answered my next question as how navigated the unknowns and what resources did you find because you went to the conference. That's something that or the convention. That's something that I did not have. I think the rules might have changed a little bit. I mean, we're both in Pinellas County, aren't we?
Yeah.
But something was totally different in 2004, 2003. There were some rules that had changed. They made it very difficult. I had no idea how to go about it, and it almost caused me to not do it. But I persevered and I just kept doing, just pushing through, and just started with the hardest curriculum. And then things got a little bit better. But so is that how you navigated, is and finding all the resources was through this convention?
No, no.
No. Oh, okay.
It was through the local city.
PPEA.
Mhm. The support
Mm,
group. And it was wonderful. I mean, we just, uh, it was just like I said, we were all friends. We were all had the same goal. It was all,
yes.
and one of the things that's different now than it was then, it seemed like the moms had servant hearts. They wanted
Yeah.
other people to succeed. They wanted to bring them in so that number one, their kids had friends to play with, But
Yes.
it was a big giant family. And
Yes.
now my daughter graduated in 2006, and so I wasn't paying attention to elementary stuff. But as far as I knew, even then, um, it was really simple with this county. So
Wow.
again, I think part of the reason is because I was part of the support group. So if there were
Right.
issues, and we were very active going in and talking to the local education supervisors, and so they
Right.
knew that we weren't trying to hide anything. Um, they were just really, I won't say encouraging us, but they were supportive.
I
We
see.
didn't get any
Okay.
feedback against it.
So you were very proactive, and I think that was my problem is I was not part of the PPEA because I did not know about it. So
Oh, yeah.
I had just inquired in other areas. I don't even remember how I found out. And then once I did join the PPEA, it was so much better, so much easier. But back then we didn't have internet like we do today. You
That's
know, we were
true.
just using lots of emails and trying to find out information. And it was hectic for me, but it was a lot easier once I did find the PPEA. My daughter graduated in 2017 with them, had a great prom, great
Yes.
graduation ceremony at the Baptist Church on Gandy. It was beautiful.
Mhm.
So I really thank God for them. I really do. And now I know we haven't spoken about this yet. So how did the creation of the homeschool co-op come about, and what needs were you hoping to address at that time?
Okay. Well, my homeschool began with just me and my daughter. And I had a 2-year-old at the time, and he would just play, and I do school, and but I quickly realized that my daughter was a little social butterfly, and I started feeling guilty that we didn't have other children for her to play with. So I had gone to the very first used book sale that I had that I knew about. Of course, now people do a lot with Amazon, but back then we could just recycle curriculum. It was just a
Yes.
wonderful party day, really.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with a friend checking out, and we were doing the checking out. And I just started a conversation with this woman who I'd never met before. Her name is Carrie Laird. And I just commented, I said, it'd be so much better if there was a way to get our kids together and just have stuff to do together, because it's really hard to do PE or drama or any of that stuff with yourself and your child. And Carrie is a go getter. And she went home that night and she created uh, basically the bones of the first co op in the county, and the first co op that we
Wow.
had ever heard of. It was called Homeschool Source. And, I just jumped into it with both feet right along with her.
Wow, that's amazing. And then it just grew from there and it
Yeah.
spread through
Yeah.
the county over to Calvary Chapel. And I won't name names, but we both know a lot of people that participated in that and continue to grow that. And it just became this amazing, huge family. And ballet. My daughter took ballet at Palm Lake Church, and just drama courses and projects and proms, and just it was wonderful. It was really, really good. And it really came in handy for me as well because my son has some disabilities. And so when I homeschooled him, it was because I had to, because he had a splenectomy at the age of 7 and he couldn't go to
Oh,
school. And
okay.
so we were doing School of Tomorrow at that time, where it's the packets. There's 12 pamphlets in each subject. So
Okay.
it's pretty easy to get through it. I really loved them. They were colorful and it kept him engaged. And then there was other programs too, because each child is different. Don't you agree? Everybody is different at their
Absolutely.
learning.
Absolutely. My daughter was
Some
all
need,
about the arts and creativity and, just friends. And my son, he was just, he was amazing and is amazing. Legos, Legos, anything
yes,
to do with his
Legos.
hands, typical little boy, he wanted
Yep.
to run and jump and play. And so, yeah, we had to do different things with those children.
What advice would you give to parents who are considering doing different in homeschooling? And how can someone find the support and the community that they need when going against mainstream, which is pretty, I don't know. It's easy for us homeschoolers, because we know we've been there, done that, but for a new homeschooler, somebody who's contemplating doing this and giving it consideration, what's the advice that you would give to them on how they can find the support?
Okay, my first advice is do it. If
Just
you're
do it.
feeling a call in your heart to homeschool your children, follow that
Yeah.
because most people don't have that. In fact, I learned that um, when my daughter was in school and I had talked to another little girl's mom and I said, "This is what I'm doing. I'm pulling her out." And she looked at me dead in the eye and she says, "Melinda, that thought would never have crossed my mind." And that
Hmm.
was the confirmation. Really, it
Yeah.
really was that I was
Yeah.
hearing correctly. So if you have an inkling of a thought, um, start researching it. See, where your piece is. That's what you need to do is see where your piece is. How, um, it, I will say not everyone should homeschool. There are parents out there that they just wouldn't do it very well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And
But
some can't because they have to work.
absolutely. Now you can homeschool and work. It's hard, it's difficult. You have to do a lot of things to work around it, but it can be done. I have friends that did it. Um, as far as where you get started, start with yourself. Go to the
Mhm.
libraries. I'm a big proponent of libraries and
Yeah.
look at the books. Find out what they have there that is about homeschooling, about learning styles, about teaching styles, because you need to merge those so that when you talk, your child understands. A lot of times,
Right.
we know what we know. That kid doesn't. And so
Yeah,
you have to
exactly.
learn how to reach them and how to speak with them. And, there are, different learning styles. There's the kinesthetic where they're always active. They have to be moving. In fact, my son, we'd do reading and because I love to read to my kids and we'd be reading stuff and I would want them to, you know, go through the information and then give it back to me so I know what they're doing. Man, he'd be on the couch, his head down, his feet on the back of the
Yeah,
couch.
yep,
He had
yep,
to be moving. And now
yep.
my daughter, she was like I am. I am very visual. If I
Mhm.
see it, I can do it. But if you
Right,
talk to me, it's like wah wah wah.
right,
Little Snoopy
right,
cartoon. I
right.
don't have pictures with it's just when it's auditory. So you learn
Right.
those things. And
Yeah.
then you want to find your people. And that
Mhm.
is, just Google it. I mean, again, like you said, we didn't have the internet. It was only,
Right,
what people that we knew or who they knew, and it made it really difficult. Um,
right.
Now, along with that, because I did taught in and I ran the co-op for a total of 15 years, I wrote a book.
Wow.
And so that would be a good grounding of someone who is interested in homeschooling, especially if you don't want to be the Lone Ranger. And
Right.
that really was what I was looking for. Because homeschooling can be lonely, it can be
Mhm.
confusing, it can be worrisome because, always in the back of your mind is, am I doing the right thing? And I'm really
Right,
going to mess up my kids. Uh,
right.
so, when you have community, and that's what we built was community. And when you have community of like-minded, people,
Yeah,
it makes a world of difference.
it
So,
does.
educate yourself and don't do it alone. Those would
Right,
be, that's
exactly.
my,
And Google it. And
yeah.
for those of you who are local in Pinellas County, it's the PPEA Association, which stands for,
Pinellas Parent Educators Association. And as far as
right.
I know, it's still going.
Yeah, as far as I know too. And do you want to show everybody your book and
Sure.
let them know like where they can get it? Because this would be a huge
Mhm.
help for them. Homeschooling with friends. And where can they get that?
They have a couple options. It is on Amazon, but I am getting my own order because I like to personalize it and I like to send
Yes.
out a little gift with it. So they can connect with me at Melinda at the homeschoolcoopexpert.com, all lowercase, no hyphen. And we can connect and I can get them their own copy. you're going to show the PDF that I have created that is 110 plus ideas of subjects to teach in a co-op.
Right,
And,
right,
we learned a lot of things that could be taught over 15 years. It was so much
right.
fun.
And that PDF, I'm gonna make that available to everybody out there that's listening. We're gonna
Yes.
put the is it your just through your email, right?
No, you'll give them the link to the PDF
Because I can
and
put
they
the
just,
link.
yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
forgot to
I'll
send
put
it
the
to you.
link in the description of the podcast. And so anybody who's interested in getting that, just look down below at the description and you will find Melinda's link to get this. And also in the future, I have book giveaways every 2 weeks or at least once a month. And so you can hook up with me on Facebook. Um, if you'd like to join, just DM me, and it's a private group. So I will give you the information privately, but I do have book giveaways, and I will be giving away Melinda's book to those who watch this podcast and answer the trivia questions in my group. So that'll be a great treat. And I think she's going to autograph the book as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I
Awesome.
decided to carry it at my house. It's
Yeah.
just more personal that way. So,
Yeah, I would have given anything to have something like that when I was homeschooling my kids. So I encourage my listeners out there that if you are considering homeschooling, please get the book because it's going to be your everyday companion. It's going to help you out and encourage you.
That concludes part one of our conversation. We're going to take a station break and you can tune back in for part two. Welcome back to part two of Doing Different with Kimmie.
Melinda, that even after your successes, are there any areas of your journey that ever felt or feel now unresolved? And how are you working to overcome any recurring patterns that you may have? Or what did you do to overcome the recurring patterns that you saw happening during your homeschooling journey? Like, for example, procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. Can you explain a little bit about your journey in that?
all of those. All of
All
those.
of them.
I loved what I did. I would do it again in a heartbeat. But um I really I do struggle with perfectionism, and I was trying not to put that on my kids because that's not fair.
Yeah.
I don't even know where it came from. I'm the firstborn, so that's probably where it came from. But but the
Yeah.
perfectionism would bring in procrastination, and
Mhm.
that's really not a good thing. So, in
Yeah.
fact, when I wrote my book, both of those were living large in my life. And I
Wow.
just had to get over it because I actually wrote the book in just a few hours. I dictated it into my phone, walking around my house because I already knew the different areas. You need information on insurance, on teachers, on how to do a school, how to start it, where to get locations, how do you find, you know, um, children, how do you find families? I knew all those things. So it took me just a couple of hours, but because it was so
Wow.
easy, imposter syndrome was really something I had to fight against. And those
And can
three
you explain
things.
like what that is?
Right.
Is it
Imposter
just
syndrome
thoughts?
is when you don't feel like what you have learned and what you have gone through, you don't feel like it has any value, that no one else
Oh,
would want to hear about it. Um, that I did great helping people one on one. That was so much fun. That was so much
yeah.
fun. In fact, one of the stories that I tell in the book is there was a mom who um, had a difficult home life, let's put it that way. And she came in tears one day, and her two girls were just wonderful. And she came in and she was sitting at my front desk with me. And I just looked at her and I said, "Are you safe?" And there was this look across her face that was just incredulous that anyone had asked that. And she told me, she says, "No one's ever asked me that."
Oh,
And so we
wow.
talked. So those kind of things one on one, I did really well. But to think that I had something to share to the larger group,
Homeschool. Yeah.
yeah, the homeschool
The homeschoolers.
area, that I just didn't have confidence. I didn't have belief that it was worthwhile.
Did you
And
think that perhaps, because I know I've often thought that, well, they know a lot more than I do,
oh yeah,
and what am I going to contribute to somebody who already has been doing this longer than I, or am I going to be thought of as being, like not really knowing what I'm doing, or is that kind of like what
or
you were feeling?
is it bragging? You know?
Right,
And
right,
my idea was this was just my life. It was nothing special. It wasn't anything that was impressive. And everybody does it. But I found out not everybody does it. Not everybody, um, I guess, has a mom being a teacher background. You know,
right,
you need something, you go
right,
look it up, you do the research. So that actually is God brought me through that. He
right,
really
right.
did. I I kept forgetting I was writing the book. If you really want to know,
Yeah,
because of the imposter syndrome, I just kept putting it off. It wasn't important. Nobody wants to hear it, you know. And finally, it was like, yeah, this is important, especially in our
yeah,
climate now, our educational
yeah.
climate now. So,
Did your mother give you a little bit of, trouble? Did she have
no,
any negative influence or anything? No, she was pretty, she backed you up.
she did. She and my dad both. They
That's
were
wonderful.
very, very supportive. I told her some of the things that were going on, and and from the time we went to school to the time my children went to school, it was a whole different world.
Things had
And Mama saw
changed. Yeah.
that. Mama saw that going on, even in her classroom.
Yeah.
So they were
And
they
it's
were
even
totally,
changed even, oh, I'm sorry. It's even
no.
changed even worse
Oh, I know.
today,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I would
And
never have a child in public school, and I
mm-mm.
really question college. I think
Yes.
we were, and both my children went to college. It was their goal. It's what they wanted to do. And, the kids in our co-op, we had so many kids that they did go to college or they started their own businesses. Just talked to a little girlfriend of mine that she became a police officer.
Oh, wow.
My son, and I love to do this, and I'll brag a little bit. Um, my son, he went to college for his math, and the professor was a former homeschooled student, graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that young man lit the fire in my son for math. So
Mm-hmm.
BJ went on to USF. He got two math degrees, or one math and one physics, and then he got a
Mm-hmm.
full scholarship to a college to get his doctorate in physics. And so
Wow.
when people say, oh, you just don't get a good education with
That's
homeschooling,
not, yeah.
or there's no social interaction with homeschooling, yeah, that's not true.
Yeah,
So
it's
don't
not
worry
true.
about that.
And I
Do
know
not
that
worry about that.
professor. I know that professor, and
Yeah,
his mom was my daughter's homeschool evaluator, and
yeah,
his younger brother is the one that influenced my daughter to go on and get her math degree, her bachelor's in math and math education.
good.
And she's a math teacher for high school. And so,
That's
yeah,
impressive.
it's really important that I've always told my kids, you want to do something where you're going to make a difference. And
Yes.
so this is a perfect example of these math professors that have been influenced or have influenced our children.
Hmm.
And my daughter saw that because she struggled with math. She struggled really bad with math,
Okay.
uh and she challenged herself. No, I'm going to get this. I'm going to close that gap, and I'm going to do this. And it's amazing because I never thought that was going to ever happen. And it's just from the Lord. She
Yeah.
surprised everybody. And we never thought, oh, this child that has an issue with math, she's not going to be a math teacher. Well, she is a math teacher, and she conquered it with the help of the Lord. And so it's amazing. And that's what we want to encourage our kids and those listening out there is to encourage them to be the best that they can be, and to
Yeah.
get them, if they are going to go to a public college, or well, they're all public, aren't they, except
Right.
for some
Yeah.
Christian ones that cost a lot of money. um but to make sure that they get really good teachers. And that's
Yes.
kind of hard, but you do have a choice. I know here at SPC, you can choose your classes, and then there's a rate your professor, and you
Mhm.
can go on there and you can take a look and see uh referrals, oh, this, he was good or he wasn't good or whatever. But that was a blessing. That was a huge blessing to have the two brothers as professors that influenced our kids. So I think that's awesome. And I was going to ask you about your support systems, but I know that you already mentioned your mom was a huge support.
Mhm.
And was there anybody else at all besides your mom and the co-op?
Oh, it was huge, the co-op.
Okay.
When I was homeschooling, I actually suffered with depression, postpartum depression and sleep deprivation, which I didn't know. I tried the exercise, I tried the vitamins, I tried everything, and um, it was a hormonal thing. And
Yeah.
there, the co-op was my lifeline, and we
Yeah.
just made lifelong friends. My kids are still friends with the kids they went to school with, and my dear friends are all former homeschool moms.
Yeah.
But there were many times that co-op day was the schooling they got in the week.
Yes.
I just really had an issue and didn't realize it. So
Yes,
I knew at
exactly.
least one day a week we were having school.
And that's the thing with the public school system, is you are on a schedule and you have to learn this, and this in so many months, and then you have to test, and then in order to go on to the next grade. But everybody learns differently.
Hmm.
And I always put pressure on myself to get it
Yeah.
done. Just get it done. Okay, we got to hurry up and get it done. And I realized that as time went on, that was not right of me to do that, because I was defeating the purpose of homeschooling.
Yeah.
And so then I started going to, some co-ops where you learn to bake bread, or
Yes.
not rainbows, but I can't remember what the name of it. It wasn't brownies or rainbows. It was
4-H.
some, what was
4-H.
it?
4-H.
Um, I can't remember what it was called. It was a Christian girls club that you earned badges and stuff. It's been so long
Okay.
ago. I wish I could remember, but um and just the dance, the ballet, the music, the stuff like that. And at first
Yes.
I was worried, oh no, they're having too much fun. They're not doing enough academic work. And I finally learned to let go a little bit and let them go at their own pace. Now, like you, my daughter was visual, but my son is visual too, but my daughter was more of a leader. She was self-taught. I
Hmm.
didn't have to do much with her. With my son, on the other hand, he was doing the somersaults off the back of the couch. He was putting glue on his hand and peeling it off and making little glue balls. Um, but I think that's what boys do. And back then I thought, "Ooh, something's not right here." But the more I talked to homeschool moms, they were like, "Nope, that's just like my son too. He does the same thing." And he definitely was more of a hands-on rather than a sit down at a computer. And but my daughter was the opposite. So it was
Yeah.
really hard. There was 5 years difference, a different gender, different learning styles, and I was a basket case. And so, yes, those co-ops really did help to get me out of the house and talking with other people and
Adults.
adults, and compare, relatable people that were relatable. Now, of course, there were always some stories that made me feel a little bit bad, because I was seeing, sometimes there's comparison, and it's like, oh, wow, they're really excelling. So look at my kid over here. I should be like but I learned, as you grow in the homeschooling, that's the beauty of it. It's not everybody is supposed to be the same and in the same mold like public school. I mean, that's what they want you to be. But that's the beauty of it, is that Johnny over there, he can graduate in 9th grade. Or Susie over here, well, she might go a little bit past 12th grade, but she's going to graduate,
That's right.
something
That's
like
right.
that. And then there was dual enrollment. And I don't know if that was
Yes.
something, wow, this sign almost fell. I don't know if that was something that was available to your children back there, but you could dual enroll in
Yes.
college.
Yes. Both of them did that for their language and also for the math. I was really
Hmm.
big science experiments and the reading and the literature and the writing. Those were my strengths. And that's one of the wonderful things about a co-op, because you have so many other teachers that their passion and their strength is in a subject area that you may not know anything about or not want to teach
Exactly.
it, you know? But there's
Exactly.
2 points I want to make if I can remember them. One, no public school teacher ever finishes the book in a year. They don't do it. And then they spend the whole first part of the next year redoing what they taught at the end of the last year. Because that's
Exactly.
how education works: repetition, repetition, repetition.
Yeah.
And um, so that was the main thing that I wanted to point out.
Hmm.
And as far as you said, like with the kids um, being self taught, play is learning.
Yeah.
Play is learning. And
Yep.
we're so conditioned that sitting at a desk, 6 hours a day with your little pens and your notebooks and listening to lectures is learning. And it really isn't. It's
Yeah.
regurgitating. It's
Yeah.
memorizing what the teacher wants to know, but it's not really learning.
Right, exactly. And there were so many regrets and guilt because my kids were in and out of public school and homeschooling because I would, it started with my son being sick and me having to homeschool and then feeling guilty for homeschooling and sending him back to school. And then he wasn't thriving and then bringing him back home to homeschool him and then another surgery. And then by the time my daughter went to public school, I did put her in public school in kindergarten all the way up to 4th grade. And then I pulled her out because in third grade, she was bused to the junior high school and she was in the gifted program because she was
In
tested
third
as,
grade.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but they said that she would level out, that she was gifted. So the first time that they called me into kindergarten, they said, we need to talk with you. And they brought me in a back room and they said, we need to talk with you about your daughter. Um, she's gifted. And first thing I thought to myself was, oh my gosh, what's wrong with her? Something is wrong mentally with her. Oh no, because I had no idea what gifted meant.
Oh no.
I thought that was handicap. And they laughed and they said, oh no, Mrs. Baker, no, 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 no. She is above and beyond her peers. And we just noticed it. And we want to know if we can test her because we know what we see. There was these two women who were gifted testers and stuff, and lo and behold, she was. So she started going to half day. She would go to the junior high or middle school. And then they said, but remember, now once she gets to be about in 7th grade, she will level out and she'll be at the same level as her peers. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I really still to this day don't understand. I just know that she needed to be more challenged. And same with my son. In 7th grade, they did the same. He didn't test gifted, but something happened where he started to fail. And like I said, I pulled them in and I pulled him in and out. Her, she went till 4th. Then she just homeschooled the rest of the time. And him, he homeschooled from 9th grade, off and on 1st grade, off and on 3rd grade, and then 9th grade and up. But he started falling behind, and we realized that, wait a minute, he needs to be challenged.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
switched.
Boredom is terrible for a child.
Oh, horrible. We switched him schools to a magnet program, and
Mm-hmm.
excel just like that. That's exactly what he needed. But then he got swine flu and he's immunosuppressed and he had to leave school. And
Yeah.
then he homeschooled for the remainder of the time. Both kids are college students or went to college. But I'm so glad it's over, I have to say. I have to say
Oh,
I
I'd
am
do it
so
again in a
glad.
heartbeat.
It was just
And
I'd do it over again if I knew what I was doing.
support.
Just like
Yes.
if everybody that's listening to us today, if you get the tools and you hook up with your people and you get the books that you need, it's going to be so much easier. And that's why when I'm talking about my experience is it was difficult because I didn't have all the tools. I did have the PPEA, which was huge, but I didn't have everything that at my disposal. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a blessing. It's a blessing, but I am kind of happy that they've done what they needed to do and they're college grads and they've got their careers and I made it. We made it. We made it through. We didn't die. We didn't, they didn't
Yes.
fail.
Yeah.
So anybody who's thinking out there right now that, oh no, I can't homeschool my kids. They'll never graduate. They're never going to be able to go to college. That's not true. That's a
No.
lie.
No, colleges, in fact, want homeschool kids because they know how to
Yes.
study, they know how to follow directions and learn. And
Yep.
that, if a teacher has the heart to teach, and that's a gift. Some teachers don't need to be teachers, but if they have
Yes.
the heart
Exactly.
to teach, that lights them up. And to find a child that is eager to learn, that is huge. And one thing
Yes.
I wanted to mention with, you were talking about going in and back and forth with homeschooling. You're not locked into this like a life sentence. So
Right.
if you want to try it, try it. If you find you need to come back like you did, you had to go back and forth. There's nothing wrong with that because the
Right.
whole goal is to do what you do for your family, to
Right.
take care of your family the way your heart is telling you, and
Right.
to put them over what you may feel you're inadequate at, or what somebody's going to think, or what the school system's going to do, because they really don't count. They really
No.
don't. Children
No.
are going to college straight from homeschooling and thriving. So
Yes.
again, like we said, you do need to pay attention to the school and the climate in the school, because
Exactly, exactly. And there's even baccalaureate programs that your child, if they're advanced and they go right into the dual enrollment, there's
yes,
also the baccalaureate programs which are for your advanced students. My kids didn't do that. They didn't need to, but
I
there's so
didn't
many
want mine to. It
options.
was offered, but it was going back into a regimented program.
Rigorous,
And
rigorous.
the rigorous part wasn't a big deal. It was the regimented program that they were trying to take my children and make them little robots again. And
Yes,
that
yes,
wasn't my vision for my kids.
yes,
So
exactly.
And this concludes the end of part 2 of my conversation with Melinda. Join us for part 3 next time.
Welcome back to part 3 of Doing Different with Kimmie.
So
yeah.
now my next question for you, Melinda, is what are your main goals for the next 1 to 3 years in your business, in your community, and in your personal life?
My goals right now is to get word out about my book. I have also developed a course a very inexpensive course to walk people through setting up their own co-op and one-on-one information for that. I'll be in the link. I'll be talking about that in as you get information from me. And I'm really, really excited about it because it speaks to those like me who is a visual learner.
Mhm.
I want someone to hold my hand. I want to have questions and answers, and I provide all that. So
Wow.
those things, I also am open and willing and want to speak at
Yeah.
local events, at state events, conventions, because I really truly believe that a homeschool co-op can change the whole climate of the energy in your homeschool. It can make it so much more enjoyable. It's always fun to learn and grow with other people and get excited for other people. Uh,
Right.
and a co-op provides that. It really truly became our family. And
Exactly. And if
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
wants to get involved in that, do you have to be licensed to lead a co-op or create a co-op? Do you have
no.
to be licensed?
No, you do not. We just
Oh,
started with a group of moms who were interested and wanted to teach all these different subjects because one person can't do it all. And
right?
so, and we started where our children were. So we started at kindergarten, first grade. We did try 1 year to have preschool, and it was a disaster. My personal opinion is those babies need to be with mama. They need to be
Yeah.
home. They don't need to be in a structured thing. And so that was one thing. The other thing was if you do belong to a co-op, treat that day as an actual school day. We did have
Yeah.
a couple of families that they would do schooling through the week and then they'd go to co-op and then they'd go home from co-op and do schooling again. And
Mhm.
that just makes it really not fun. It
Right.
puts a ton of pressure on the children,
It
and they're
is.
tired, and you're tired after a co-op day.
Yeah.
One of my friends that is still a dear friend, I interviewed her for the book, and she said, "You know what?" She says, "My kids never complained about getting ready when it was co-op day.
Right.
We were
Right.
eager to go there, and it was just that kind of thing. We would have um, pizza Fridays, and once a month we always had a really fun event. Pajama day or backward clothes
Yeah.
day or a crazy hair day. So it was a lot of parties,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
still
And
learn during those days.
I
But
remember my kids looking forward to those 2 days a week because that was all that we could do at the time, but 2 days a week and to go at Calvary Chapel and learn about history, mystery of history,
mhm,
and Horse 101, learn about farm animals, whatever it was. There was so much space. There was space and science. There was just so much that you could choose from. And,
yes,
but it's good to know that you don't have to have a license to do it. And it is
no,
really good if you want to be really involved and you really have that creativity in you to go ahead and lead one, to go ahead and create one. And I think that's great for your community because some people, they have to drive far for it. They don't always have it local. And I just want to remind everybody that the moms that do go to co-ops, maybe for kindergarten, first grade, grade school, whatever, they do have babies. I mean, a lot of them will bring their babies with them.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
so, they're not expecting them to learn the specific whatever it is that's being taught, but they are going to be there. You can't expect the baby to not go with the mom. I mean, that's part of family, that's part of learning. So um yeah, it's not something that you can, I mean, if you want to, you can leave your babies at home with a babysitter, but don't
not
be afraid to bring
necessary.
them.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to, it's all part of learning, you know?
and
And
also
so, yeah,
um, find a co-op that works for you.
yeah,
That the moms have the same attitudes, they have the same interests. They don't have to be the same because you want a lot of different variety because that
yeah,
helps learning be fun. But as far as heart condition and family and God, find those kind of
yes.
families. And if you can't find a family like that, create your own. And that's
Create
where I
your
come
own.
in. That's where I come in.
That's
And it's
wonderful.
there are some legal things you want to be aware of, but you do not have to have a license depending on your state. Um,
Yeah.
and each state is going to be different. I did learn that when I was writing my book. So you do have to find out not only your state, but also your county.
Mhm.
Sometimes, if a group of people are meeting in one location, uh, they start considering that a business. which is
Oh.
ridiculous, but they do. And
Oh.
ours was not for profit. Seriously, ours was a ministry. We charged $2.50 an hour per child per class,
Wow. Wow.
which, we were really cheap babysitters.
Yeah,
But our heart
exactly.
was the ministry of it. And then when I took over, I upped that because if someone had a college background, they had a lot of experience, I felt that they deserved more. But nobody ever really made money because we just took the monies that we made teaching and put it back into classes for the kids.
Exactly, exactly. But when it comes to if there was an income or whatever, then I mean you can make so much before you have to report it. I know that much. There's a
Yeah, that
cutoff.
changed since I got started.
Yeah.
So that is a different thing. The best thing, I am not an attorney, I am not an accountant, so you do want to check those things from
Yes.
wherever you are. You just want to make sure that you're following the law in your local area.
That's right. Exactly. And yeah, and if you're interested in leading, that's definitely important for you to do. You need to find that out
Oh yeah,
first. So,
oh yeah.
well,
I have forms in the book that talk about all these different things.
oh wow.
One of the big things is the medical. If you're leaving your child, you need to have medical permission slips.
That's
And
right.
so things like that are things that I cover,
That's right. That's
which we
like
had to work
profession.
through. We had to
Yeah.
work through all these because in the beginning we just met. You know?
Right, right. But there is a liability if your child has asthma,
Yeah,
if there's diabetic or whatever,
yeah,
you have to have those forms in place and those permissions in place because you need to protect their health. The other people need to be protected as well. So you have to give consent that you're allowing them to teach your child or be in the environment that they're in. And so yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good point too. And it's just like professional nannying. When
hmm
you're, I used to be a
yeah.
professional nanny, and we
Oh, okay.
always had to have consent forms and, schedules, and you wrote down everything and you just kept track of everything. You kept a portfolio.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah,
a
it's
little
very
different with a
similar.
co-op. We didn't have to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, you don't have to do the portfolio. Well, I mean, if you're homeschooling, you
Well,
can,
yeah,
I
you would do
suppose.
that, but that's on your own.
Right,
Um,
that's not with the co-op.
yeah, and our co-op and all the ones that I know that are local, you can stay there. You don't have to
Oh,
drop your child off and leave. In fact, that was one
right.
of the best things because how much trauma does a child go through? And now some kids are wanting to go to school. After a couple, 3 days, maybe they get over that. But the trauma of dropping your child off and not seeing them again for hours and hours. We had a lot of children because they're young. Mama just sat in the classroom,
Yeah.
you know,
And
sometimes
that's what I was
sometimes
yeah.
holding their child until they got comfortable. And that's the whole purpose, I think, of homeschooling, is
Yes.
that child, their needs are really, really something you focus on. And to me,
Yes.
that's a big one.
Right. And there's always going to be controversy about it. There's going to be people that think, "Oh, no, you're doing harm to your child." And been there, done that, heard it all.
Yeah.
Um, don't let it affect you. Don't let it guilt trip you because it's going to keep you
No.
back. It's going to keep you from moving forward. And if you're in your heart, if you're feeling that this is what your child needs, then just do it.
Do it.
Don't let
Exactly.
the other people's opinions drive you to what they want you to do. You need to do what's best for your child. And so, Melinda, I thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights, your wisdom. It was such a pleasure speaking with you today. And also for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are interested in being interviewed, please send me an email, which you will find below in the description of the podcast, along with all of Melinda's links and all of her information for her book. Um, Hook up with me on Facebook because I will be having a book giveaway for Melinda and it will be autographed as well. And you can get in touch with her through her email for any more information that you may want to ask her.
Yes.
And I want to let you know too to remember to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast so that other people can be encouraged to do their different too. And so, Melinda, again, I thank you so much. And until next time, keep doing different. Bye-bye.